Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we will take a look at some new Just Know HOA content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
First one is titled, HOA Fired Me Because of Association. For almost 8 years I've worked for my HOA on a small job around the neighborhood. It takes no more than an hour of work a week and I got enough pay to consider it fun money, while I saved from my actual job. Well, yesterday I got a call from my brother asking me where my supplies were because someone was there to pick them up. I was confused because my manager never told me anything and asked, "What do you mean?" It got quiet on the phone and my brother responds, "Apparently he is doing your job now. 8 years and they didn't even tell me they let me go." The manager that hired me was brought to question on some things and as a result me and anyone he hired was let go. This happened 2 weeks ago and I'm just now finding out. No one bothered to call anyone he hired, they just waited for them to find out. I'm sending an invoice to them now because I sure as hell didn't work for free in the time they neglected to tell me. The excuse they gave me was that they were changing how they distributed the work and to not take it personally and that my manager is just out. I don't care about losing the job, it's a dime a dozen. But 8 years and this is how it ends. Not only that, I found out the job is probably going to go to the son of a board member. I'm butthurt over that because when my mom was on the board, members raised a stink because she would be able to dictate my pay. She rustled feathers on a completely different thing and they did everything they could to push her out since. She stepped down so I could keep my job. And you can bet I will be at every meeting if that guy gets hired. Duck the HOA. Next one is titled, The Stocky HOA President. During my high school years, my parents divorced and my mom moved across the country. Being in boarding school during the term anyway, I went with her and lived with her during school times and visited my dad during the holidays. At first, we stayed with my aunt but soon my mom and her boyfriend wanted their own space. I went to a private school, so we moved close enough for me to walk to school in the morning, not common in my country due to unsafe roads. We knew no one aside from my aunt. We actually made up people just to get a library card. Our new neighborhood was run by an HOA, and the president was some old guy who had retired and had nothing better to do at the time. For some reason, he chose us to harass. For example, several people had pets in the complex. Our lease agreement specifically stated that pets were permitted. At the time, I had my dog. I suffer from depression and anxiety and my dog really helped with that, but she wasn't registered as any emotional support. We were given several fines for having the dog, claiming that tenants weren't allowed pets. He did not own the house. We also had our old cat who we adopted from a family with too many cats. He was old and pretty much slept all the time. The HOA president threatened to take us to court over the animals. He had pictures, but we had no front garden. All the pictures he took were through our windows. This was especially distressing as my room had the main window out onto the street. This creepy old duck had a lens that could zoom right into my bedroom window. Eventually, the dog went to live with my aunt because we were all so tired of fighting every time I took her for a walk. The cat stayed. Later, we got another cat that my boyfriend and I had found abandoned. Cue more threatening notes from old guy. I started babysitting for one of the neighbors, and even they said that he was overbearing and creepy even though they owned the house. My mom's boyfriend's daughter is a lawyer and thoroughly examined our lease and the HOA paperwork. We broke no rules. Our garden was neat and looked good. Our bins were taken in one time. The only thing he took offense to were a teenager's only friend and a geriatric cat. We moved as soon as I finished high school. Sorry for the long post, but I just needed to vent about the old duck that has made me terrified to move to a place that has an HOA. I understand wanting one to make sure people's gardens are neat and so on, but too many presidents go on a massive power trip. Next one is titled, HOA Refuses to Confirm Whether Payment Has Been Made. I work in escrow. For properties with HOA, we have to request a demand from the HOA company showing when the last payment was made for the property so we can pay the next payment at close of escrow. Usually if the escrow drags into the next month, we have to request an updated demand from the HOA so we can be sure to send in the correct amount for the checks, in case the seller didn't pay yet. Usually happens if escrow closes at the beginning of the month. Many of the smaller HOA companies are really hard to contact. They're run by people with no experience and oftentimes don't speak English very well. This is about one such company. I had been in contact with the president of the HOA from February well into March, which is when escrow closed. Every call went to voicemail, every email went unanswered. He responded to about maybe 1 out of my 5 calls, and none of my emails. Escrow closes March 16th, and I call him to confirm whether or not March payment has been made. I expect it to have been, considering it was the middle of March and usually they get paid at the beginning. He says he has to check with his treasurer and will get back to me. I call a few more times until he emails me saying he hasn't received March payment yet. The seller says he did send in the March payment already and to double check with the HOA. So I wait because maybe they were waiting for the payment to be cleared. I call again and again. On March 29th, the HOA tells me they still haven't received payment and to just send him the check, and he would just void it if it's been paid already. I asked for contact information for his treasurer because the seller said the fees had already been paid. He refused to give the information to me. The seller sends me a copy of the deposited check and it was paid out on March 15th. I email this guy the copy of the cashed check and ask him whether payment was received, but he ignores my emails and subsequent phone calls have been ignored. I'm now just holding onto this file waiting for my manager to approve sending the money back to the seller. I don't understand how this HOA company thinks we should just send them another check when the first time he told me payment has not been made was after the check had already been cashed. Next one is titled, "The Story of How My HOA Gave Me a Childhood Head Injury and Killed My Cat." A little late, but there were these lampposts all over town along the sidewalks about 6 feet high, and to replace the light bulb you had to take a pointy top off with a screw and a nut. Well, my HOA thought that was too much time, so they used wire. So when I was about 3 I was playing outside and for one reason or another which I cannot remember the top fell off, onto my head. I had to get 8 stitches. They said publicly that my parents were terrible parents for letting me out of their sight and it wasn't their fault. They were getting dressed up for a party or a reunion or something, but I remember it was less than 10 minutes. Another example was when they said cats had to be on leashes, and it was county law. For reference, there were a lot of middle-aged dog owners who never had kids, so they were jealous that cats could roam free, but dogs couldn't. So they spread the information that if you see a cat without a leash, call animal control. Which my dad tried to combat on a local forum, but it was an uphill battle. Well, one day, my cat wanted to go outside, as most cats do. So a college-age daughter, of someone 2 doors down picked up my cat, who was comfortable around humans, and gave her water which she drank. Now she was given leftover tuna, and cats drink more water to help them digest it. Now this was enough evidence that my cat was a stray and called animal control. We didn't know and she ended up going without her medicine for about a week, which forced us to put her down. So at 9 years old, I was already fully aware that HOA sucked. Last one is titled, "Board VP Just Ducked Himself." I have vacation property that is run by a board and operates like an HOA. We don't call it an HOA, but for all intents and purposes it is. I would love to tell you all of the horror I have experienced at the hands of the board. I refer to them as Satan's spawn, but I am currently suing, so I do need to be careful. But I figure I can share tales that don't directly involve me. On Friday, a board member or caretaker hand-delivered a letter to a resident telling him he had 24 hours to remove a small forklift from the community. It was stuck in the mud and the caretaker actually spent the afternoon trying to help him dig it out to move it. He wanted to use the backhoe that belongs to the association, but the board VP said no. That evening the police were in the neighborhood on an unrelated matter, They stopped and spoke with the man and ran his name. This is not unusual. The place has gone downhill fast recently. The man had a warrant for missing court and was arrested. Saturday the VP decided since the man was gone it would be the perfect opportunity to call a tow company and have them remove the forklift. Since it was still stuck, he happily used the backhoe to pull it for the tow truck driver. Sunday the arresting officer was back for the original reason he had come the day before. He noticed the forklift was gone. He spoke with a neighbor who witnessed the VP use the backhoe to pull it onto the road and the tow truck take it away. He took pictures of the ruts showing how it was removed. A statement from the witness who saw what happened and documented that he had seen it the previous evening when the man was arrested. That documentation includes that the VP was on site and knew that the man had been arrested. He also documented that the VP would not allow the caretaker to use the backhoe to get it moved the day before but used it himself to steal it from the property. The guy is going to be upset when he gets out and finds out his forklift is gone, but he will have the officer's report that shows that the VP trespassed on his property, used the backhoe to remove the forklift and had it towed. Even though they had given him a letter that said he has 24 hours to remove it, that doesn't give them the right to take it. There are other lots that have equipment sitting on them that have been there for years. There are no bylaws that say you can't have things on your property either. The VP just doesn't like this guy and seems to think he can do whatever the duck he wants. He has called the police on a few people numerous times and has been told if he keeps harassing people they will arrest him. I'm tempted to pay the guy's bail just so I can be there to watch the shit show when he gets home to press charges on the VP for theft, trespassing and harassment. Being that it's a holiday weekend, the VP would most likely sit in the county jail until Monday waiting for a judge to set bail. Update. I spoke with another owner tonight. It's a very small town and the reason the officer was there was to arrest the owner I spoke with tonight, who also happened to use same bondsman as Guy. When he was bonding out, the bondsman asked if he knew Guy. I'm just gonna call him Guy from now on, because they live in the same community, and told him the following. First of all, it's a minor offense and the initial bail was $500, so Guy only had to put up $50 to get released, which he did through this particular bondsman. When the bondsman was notified he missed court, he alerted the sheriff's department that he was going to serve the warrant and arrest him as his usual policy. He then went to the community. It's gated, swipe key card and the arm lifts. When he arrived, a car went through in front of him. He waited for the arm to drop, but it didn't, so he drove in and parked in front of the office. The lady in the office came out screaming at him as he parked. Her husband, the VP, followed. They were demanding to search his vehicle because they thought he was sneaking someone in. Yeah, that's a new thing they have been doing. Bondsman tried to show his ID and paperwork and explain why he was there, but VP wasn't having any of that and kept telling him to get the duck out or he was gonna call the cops. Bondsman said, please do call and they will tell why he was there. VP was livid, calls 911 and reports there is a trespasser and he damaged the gate. He didn't. It is really slow because people often are towing an RV or toy hauler. Sheriff shows up and explains to VP that the bondsman is there legally to arrest someone, but VP keeps demanding that the bondsman be issued a trespass notice. In my state you have to issue the notice and then the person can be arrested if they come back. This goes back and forth until the sheriff tells bondsman to go get his guy, he will stay with VP. Guy wasn't home, so sheriff told VP when bondsman comes back to let him and leave him alone so he can do his job, and they left. It was a total coincidence that the officer was there and arrested Guy. Come to find out that VP basically thinks he is the king, more like Satan's spawn, and has upset the wrong people. I emailed the 911 center and asked for the call logs so I have proof of what happened with bondsman. I was surprised to get a response so quick, but I now have the logs that back up the above to use in my case. The bondsman also told the other owner if VP gets arrested he won't bond him out, and neither will the other company. He will have to use a non-local company. It will take longer and be a pain in the butt for VP. Word is already out that VP is an a-hole and the police are tired of his crap, which explains why the officer was so interested in the forklift being gone. I'm gonna call bondsman in the morning to find out what the bail is and hopefully pay it so he can press charges on VP. While VP is an a-hole, the majority of the board is pretty bad and they let him do what he wants. Other owners have filed restraining orders on him because he is scary, mean, and violent. The board lets him get away with it because he lives there and they don't want to upset him. Thanks for listening.